Good evening, everyone. It's Firestorm here. It's been a while, YouTube. It has been a while since I've really done any major videos. Now, this video is a response video to another video that I did a year ago. That was actually in response to another video that I did several months before that video. Basically, yet again, where we've come full circle and we are repeating ourselves. Basically, what I'm talking about, if people aren't aware yet, some people might be aware, some people may not be aware. To be perfectly blunt, Operation Grange, the police investigation into the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, which has basically been running since 2011, so 8 years, has basically been confirmed as of yesterday, the 5th of June 2019, to be receiving more funding. Here is the article, and this is what the article says. So, the government has said it will continue to fund the police investigation into the disappearance of Madeleine McCann until March next year. The 3-year-old disappeared from a holiday apartment in Portugal in 2007. As we know, more than 11 million has been spent on the police inquiry known as Operation Grange, which began in 2011. The Home Office has said that a similar level of funding will be granted this year, as in between 2018 and 2019, when the inquiry was given £300,000. However, the department said a final decision on the amount would not be made until October, so I assume that's October of this year. Detectives have been applying to the Home Office every 6 months for a grant to continue their work. Operation Grange was set up after former Prime Minister David Cameron asked the force to bring their expertise to an inquiry after the Portuguese investigation failed to make headway. 4 people were identified as suspects in 2013, but no further action was taken as they were interviewed by Portuguese officers and the Met Police who visited the holiday resort in 2014. Madeleine's parents, Kate and Jeremy McCann, have vowed to never give up the search for their daughter, who vanished from their family's holiday apartment while they were dining at a restaurant nearby. We all know that story. So, yet again, we're back at square one. Yet again, we repeat ourselves because for some reason the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, from the British government's perspective, appears to be the most important thing in existence. Apparently, it has to be solved. Now, I don't want to come across sounding like I'm some cold person who doesn't want a missing child to be found, although by now, if she's still alive, she'll be about 15. But anyway, I'm not saying that she doesn't have a right to be found. She does have a right to be found. But so does every other missing person in the UK. And let's just throw it out there. Right now, statistics state 180,000 people are reported missing every year in the UK. That's roughly 1 every 90 seconds. 1 in 200 children will go missing, with that number being up to 1 in 500 adults. Each year in the UK, it is estimated that 140,000 children go missing each year, and that's children ages between 12 and 17 that make up half the missing people in the UK. Now, the issue we have here, people, is simple. There are people going missing all the time in the UK, and you never hear about them, or if you do, it's briefly mentioned in the news for a few weeks, and then it disappears. I live in Hessel, which is basically just outside of Hull. In my local area, in the last 12 months, to my knowledge anyway, three people have gone missing. One of those people, about a month or so ago, her body was found, and that case has sort of gone quiet after that. There's been nothing in the news as far as I'm aware that stated there's been any sort of formal progress after that. I mean, her body was found a few weeks after she went missing. I do know they did have somebody in custody at the time, but I don't know if they were charged with the murder. But the point is, people who go missing seem to fade away, apart from Madeleine McCann. Madeleine McCann is never forgotten. Madeleine McCann is always kept in the spotlight. Now, the reason Operation Grange even started was because the McCanns wrote a letter to David Cameron basically stating that it wasn't fair that nobody was looking for the daughter. Now, you can sympathise with that, you really can. But the parents of Ben Needham did the same thing for years and didn't get a single bit of help. The McCanns do it, and boom, they get help. And for 8 years, the British public have been paying for this investigation, and there's been no results. None at all. I mean, at the moment, it's the usual stuff. I mean, the parents are always saying, we'll never give up hope, we'll never stop looking. But here's something that should be said. The parents themselves have said that the Help Find Our Daughter Fund currently has £750,000 sitting in it. Here's my argument. Why don't Kate and Jerry McCann give that money to Operation Grange? Because that would probably fund Operation Grange for probably 3 years at most, and that would be £750,000 that would be not coming out of the public purse. And here's the thing: why don't they do that? They've never offered that money. They keep saying, "Oh, well, that money that will be used for private investigators should Operation Grange ever close." And every time Operation Grange comes around and looks for more funding, the same things are always said. You know, they have new leads of inquiry, they have important leads to look at, they have people of interest to look at. I mean, about 2 years ago, Operation Grange stated that they wanted to speak to a woman who lived in an apartment effectively opposite the hotel, and they wanted to speak to her because they basically wanted to know if she'd seen or heard anything the night Madeleine disappeared. Here's the big problem with that. They actually admitted that this woman in question had left the country. She'd moved out of Portugal several years previously, and as a result they didn't know where she was. So basically they wanted to track down a woman who at the time of the disappearance had lived in an apartment near the hotel, and were basically wanting to ask her, you know, 8 years ago when you were living there, did you see or hear anything on that night? You know, that just feels like they're grasping at straws there. I appreciate everything needs to be investigated, but the point is, why don't other missing person cases get this much attention? I mean, it just feels like strings are being pulled and favours are being done, and I know I've probably said this before, but if it was a common person, and by that I mean if the parent in question wasn't a middle class doctor on a big wage, then I don't think they'd be getting half the support they'd be getting. Not to mention, again, I know I've probably mentioned this before, people, but why were the McCanns never investigated? Why were they never looked into? I mean, I think they were investigated at one point, but that's when they basically tried to sue the Portuguese police over everything. But the point was, I'm gonna, as I've said before, they are basically responsible for their daughter's disappearance. They left their daughter alone in their holiday villa while they went out to drink and eat food with their friends. There was a babysitting service on a night they could have used. They chose not to use it. They put their 3 children in danger, and their actions led to their Madeleine disappearing. Now, we could argue forever whether or not that the parents accidentally killed her by giving her something to make her sleep, but you know, we don't know. But the point I'm trying to make here is, again, Madeleine McCann, Operation Grange, has been given more funding because apparently this one missing person case matters more than all the other missing person cases in the UK. I appreciate that police cases, missing persons cases, they can take a while. They can be reopened. They can be reinvestigated if new evidence comes to light. But just what is Operation Grange investigating? This is something I always feel like needs to be asked. Yes, they can't reveal everything because obviously you don't want to be giving away information in a sensitive case that involves a missing person. But I know I've said this before, but I sometimes wonder, are they discreetly investigating the parents? Because I feel like that might well be the only thing left that they can do. Because from a realistic point, and yes, I am aware of the Netflix documentary. I haven't actually watched it yet, although from what I've heard about it, a lot of the information in the documentary on Netflix is basically information that's been floating around the public domain for years. So I don't think it's really anything new. But one of the things that realistically keeps cropping up, even though it's actually been debunked, is the night of Madeleine's disappearance. Somebody who I believe was friends with the McCanns basically claimed to have seen a man walking sort of towards the beach with a child in his arms, a young girl about 4 or 5 years old. The ironic thing is, I'm pretty certain that that same man came forward and actually confirmed that that was his daughter. So effectively that was completely dismissed as a possible kidnapper, even though that keeps getting brought up, even though it was dismissed. But you know, we could talk about this forever, but the point is, just to go back to the initial subject, once again, Operation Grange has been given more funding. Well, it's been pledged more funding, and we'll probably find out in the next 3 months or so if they're going to get it. But we're probably going to be stuck in this circle for a while. You know, we'll be stuck in a circle, and we'll probably, whether or not the disappearance of Madeleine McCann will ever get solved is anybody's guess. But for the moment, we're just back at square one again, everybody. You know, it's getting more funding. Other people are being left in the dark with their missing loved ones. And the McCanns again seem to be in the spotlight with barbed wire wrapped around them, and the British government desperate to help them and desperate to keep them happy, and generally desperate to, you know, help them, and they're not desperate to help anybody else. That's how it comes across, really. I mean, there's not more I can say, people. There really isn't a lot more I can say. But thanks for watching, and comment in the box below, please, if you want to. Thanks very much. Bye for now.